That is generally a kind of a fun way to start.
This is
But I
our
mean, Jack, you said something wrong last week. What what
yeah,
what was
yeah.
the
We
mistake?
need to make like a kind of retraction. We were off by with our like our
What did we
facts
say
last
wrong?
week.
Okay,
So we as an
talking about
F5 visa
elections.
holder, I'm not allowed to vote in national elections. So I can't
Ah,
vote for president and I can't vote for parliament. What I can vote
what
for
can you
is
vote?
like local elections, kind of like a city council member or
Although last
mayor.
the election a couple weeks ago, wasn't that both parliament and local stuff?
Well, like the local stuff would be okay. Like I could if I don't know. I didn't
Oh,
vote,
okay,
so I'm not even sure.
right.
I thought it was just like a parliamentary kind of national election.
I think it was
Um,
more than that.
okay.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure last time there it was parliamentary and local elections as well.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that would work then. Like if you went in and you're like, I'm on this visa, like if they would give you a separate ballot, sorry, for just the things that you can
There
vote
probably
for.
is. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, I didn't ask my wife. She voted. She's like not very she's not really into politics and stuff like that. So she just kind of voted for who her coworker told her to vote for. He's like, you should vote for this, 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 this. And she's like, okay. And then she just did it. Um, so
I bet your ballot's actually separate no matter what, right? Like for stat collection, they're gonna want to know what the foreigners are voting for, like as a
right.
block. What do you
Yeah,
think?
they
Yeah,
probably have like an
maybe.
English one, like, oh, here, we got an English one for you. Um,
Maybe.
no, I've
Anyway,
just
that is good to
never,
know.
yeah.
That is good to know so it is only local only. Like I knew it wasn't president, but
Mhm.
yeah, I wasn't sure in that case.
No
So
national
thanks for
elections.
the
Yeah, you
correction.
don't get a
That's
national
good to know.
election say in things.
Okay, so
So
like your city or your like neighborhood, like
yeah,
elections
I think
are
provincial and municipal ballots are okay, but
okay.
nothing beyond that. Yeah.
Good to
Is it
know.
possible that can I do a plug for my donut shop?
Yeah, dude, go for it.
Can I? All right.
Ryan's
This
munching
is
away
legit.
over here for everyone on
No,
audio
this is
only.
legit. This is legit. Like I am not a sweets guy. Not really. I like to cook a lot, right? You guys know me. That's one of my
Hmm.
hobbies. And I do make cakes and stuff. It's for other people. I'm not, I'll take a little bite of something and that's enough for me. This guy opened up downstairs and he has I would call guapegi like Korean style donuts. They're like um glutinous rice, I think is what the flour they're using in here. Makes it
Mm.
chewy.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. I don't know this technology. I've had this a couple of times and I normally don't give a shit. I normally just do not care. This is right downstairs from me. And man, it is the best. So if you're in Seoul and you're looking for guapegi, which is this awesome chewy donut, this place is called Uju, like space. Uju guapegi. And I don't know if it's a chain or not. One of my friends, when she saw it, she's like, I think that's a chain. Um, but I haven't seen it anywhere else. If you're looking for it, this place is really close to Seoul Station, exit 12 in Huam Market, Huam Shijang. And man, they deserve your business. Also, a very classy place. They listen to jazz music.
Wow.
That's my plug.
Wait, when you say space, you
When
talking
I
about like outer
Google
space?
when I
Like
Google it,
Uju?
Ryan,
Yeah.
Uju
Okay.
Uju Kwabegi,
Yep.
only the one in your neighborhood pops up. So it does not look
Right
like a
on.
chain. Or
Yeah.
not
So he's
Google.
got
When
these cream
I
cheese
neighbor
filled
it.
ones. I mean, they're next level. Yeah.
And
I
if you're in
probably
that
have
neighborhood,
this
if you
like
manage to find Uju Kwabegi in the Huam Market, just start screaming Ryan, and he'll come down find you.
Yeah, he'll
I
hear
will.
you.
I
Because
mean, it's right. I can see off my patio. It's right there.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's right at the head of the market where the sign says Huamshijang. Right there underneath the arch. He's got primo real estate. And nice
nice.
guy.
They sell
Yeah.
coffee too? They got like drinks and
Yeah, so I love his combos. He does so he's got set menus, right?
mhm.
So he's got and it's good. I've got ice Americanos are excellent.
Yeah.
He's got really good espresso, which I mean everywhere in Korea pretty much has great espresso.
Yeah,
But
these days.
he does like a Americano donut combo, and there's also draft beer in donut combo, which I haven't tried. I just think for me that's a little too much. But I think that's one of the most decadent things you're going to find in
That
the
is
market.
sounds really decadent.
Beer
Yeah.
and a
Yeah, if you're
donut.
looking for a
Yeah, I
decadent
mean,
lunch,
The only
come get a
worst thing
draft
you could
beer
get
and
would be like if
donuts.
that draft were a Guinness and a guabegi. I mean,
Yeah.
forget about it. Your daily caloric intake is done. Like that's it for today. You're done.
I'll
Yeah.
just have
nice.
7 donuts and a draft beer, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
So
What if
what's our
you what
topic today? Did
yeah.
I derail us with my
No,
plug?
no, I'm just thinking like what if you dunked the donut in the draft beer? Would that
Maybe that's what you're
enhance it?
supposed to do, you know?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't investigated the whole scheme,
Let us
you
know
know.
when you dunk a draft, dunk and draft. Yeah, try that.
Yeah, I could bring that back to Wisconsin. I could see that being big in Milwaukee, right? Draft beer and donuts.
I think Minnesota would be okay with that too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's Midwest.
Genius.
Yeah.
Genius out here.
Not Kevin's crazy Arizona state with your Supreme Court and yeah, no, we don't want to. We're not going down
With
the.
your Supreme Court, that what are you implying that we don't have donuts in Arizona?
No, no, I was saying you're too conservative for draft beer and donuts. I think maybe I don't know. Yeah,
That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense, Jack.
it doesn't make sense. No, I'm just talking.
What does make sense is this donut. I mean, that's real cream cheese. It's
Nice.
really
That is
strong
amazing.
taste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
looks fantastic
I
through
don't know
the
if we're gonna post
screen.
the video for this or not, but this is not your average donut. It's got the crumb structure of like a baguette. It's all like airy inside. Um, this is not Dunkin'. Mm. So freaking delicious.
Amazing. All right, Kevin, transition us out of here. Where are we going?
Yeah. Let's go
I
somewhere.
thought you were bringing something to talk about this time. I had the same old topic.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we could talk about. I don't know. I mean, I love talking about food. I love talking about donuts. But
All right, well,
if we
cut
had
some
to
of
have
this
to
out.
talk,
Cut some of this out later because this is
yeah,
a bit
because
ridiculous.
it's getting a little
Um,
ridiculous. But I did write something in the chat about like I don't know. Am I getting older, or are is it just me getting older and like shaking my cane on my front porch, or are the students getting more, kind of liberal and progressive? Like, are they changing? Because it's just, I'm looking back now as I've done 20 years at the same school, right? I started when I was like 29 years old, 28, 27, and now I'm, almost 50 and I don't know, like, am I changing and the kids are staying the same, or I don't know. I'm just wondering if you guys are feeling the same way. Like, what you feel,
You're
right?
old, man. You're old.
Yeah.
yeah, you're definitely old. But no, I mean, I think we've mentioned this before. I mean, this is what happens in every country. Kids, people change, right? And in general becomes a little bit more progressive. I mean, especially with like something. I mean, I think this came up because the kind of funny news that I sent you about how Seoul is potentially they're dealing with having a Japanese AV festival coming in, and there's like they're being pushed around. Like some politicians are like, you can't have a festival about porn here. It's like
Yeah,
there's no actual porn, it's just a
we don't
festival of
talk
it.
about
They're just
that.
having the
Yeah.
AV actresses come in.
Yeah.
And so you were just like you were I think you were commenting on that. But I mean, I've definitely noticed a difference. I remember a bunch of years ago where I've noticed it the most with students is, well, two things. One, tattoos, and two, their reaction to LGBT stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, one, many years ago, like students never had tattoos. Now I've got a kid in one of my classes who's just like, he's got almost an entire arm of just like random it is really random tattoos. He's got like five Bart Simpson things. He's got like some random stuff on his fingers. Some of it's low quality, some of it's good quality. It's like he just likes getting ink.
It's
Um,
just like a Post Malone type of,
yeah, he's just
doodles.
going
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I mean, you still don't see a lot of tattoos among students, but 15 years ago it was zero, and now maybe 10% or something like that. I don't know, very rough estimate. But then I've also noticed it very clearly. I remember many years ago, I used to have this activity, I haven't done it in a while, where I had students, I gave them, in a group of four, I gave each person two sons or daughters, and their job was to be matchmakers and match their kids up together, basically. Um, and every now and then, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's like, well, you could always match two of the sons together. Why not? There's nothing against this. And at the time, the reaction was usually just like, ugh, like, no, that's just wrong. And
Yeah.
now, like, sometimes the students don't think that you can do it. And then as soon as I mention it, they're just like, oh, right. I can do that, you know, but it's not like a bad reaction. It's just like, yeah, good thinking, Kev. And then they look at it and they're like, oh yeah, this guy and this guy are a good match,
Have
you
they
know,
ever
they
done it
so.
without you mentioning it though? Has anyone ever just?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Actually, a couple times they have, and I'm always impressed. I'm like, hey, good job. But I mean, I
Yeah.
usually notice it because I'm walking around as they're checking. But yeah, although in the past, no. But then, you know, starting, I don't know, a few years ago, randomly, I'd see one or two that would catch it before I'd mention it. And so just seeing not so much like how they act, but just their reaction to that thing has definitely been opened up,
Yeah, man,
which is interesting.
that's totally evolved. That's totally different.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure. It's
I
massive.
agree completely. The only I've actually had that same thought. I do an activity that I think both of you guys know. It's basically speed dating. And so
Yeah.
I have them design their own profiles, but it's not of them. They have to create like an avatar. So it's just fun, you know, and then I have them switch all their drawings and everything and their characters and all their stats. So they get somebody else's drawing. Of course, everybody's drawing these crazy things, and it's like, oh, I gotta be this thing now, you know, or this
Mm.
person, this job, whatever.
These three eyes.
And it's never an equal number of male and female. So you're inevitably gonna have some type of homosexuality matches. And it used to be always had to be I mean, it wasn't ever like uncomfortable. It's just always somebody has to make a damn comment about it. It's like, why is this a thing? You know? The only time I hear it now is if I have a class like mechanical engineers or something. Our classes may be grouped, and in that group of students, the students themselves are usually like right now my class has one female student and
Yeah. And
24
so
male
most of their
students.
characters probably tend to be male as well, just in
Right,
general.
exactly.
Yeah.
So when they do it, they'll laugh, but that's because like we've just decided the entire room is gay, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Like
like
everyone
what is
is
this activity, teacher? All right.
That's funny.
But it's a different sort of thing. It's not like a comment because of just on the fact that, ooh, someone is suggesting homosexuality, you know, that's like hilarious or inappropriate. It's like I think that's kind of gone now, which is
Yeah,
fantastic.
when that topic comes up, it's like the reaction is like yawn next, you know. They're just
Yeah,
like it's not even a thing where
which is
everyone
what it should be.
would giggled, you know, like 10, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, they would have giggled and
Yeah.
laughed and mocked it. The reason I brought this up is because I had a couple of conversations with students that were really interesting this last week. And I don't know, I can't remember how the conversation came about, but essentially I have several students that are living together with their significant other.
Oh,
But they're
that's not very common.
right, right. It's not very common. And their parents know about it too and are cool with it.
Wow.
I
I'm
know.
more
Freshman?
surprised. I'm more surprised about that in Korea, not because of, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, living together, but just because, like, how the fuck are they affording an apartment
Yeah.
together? Like,
Well,
that's
Yeah.
usually why kids don't live on their own in Korea. I mean, in America too these days, actually, just because
How do you afford the
it's expensive as
junse or
shit.
whatever
Yeah.
the down payment? That struck me as kind of I was kind of surprised, like taken aback a little bit, not because of the you know any moral implications or whatever. It's totally normal in American culture to do
Mm.
that, you know, um, and in other cultures, of course. But here it still seems like there's like a stigma against that, right? Like it would be, you know, it's just like you don't.
I would say like, I mean, I can't make a judgment if it's a stigma or not because
You know,
I'm not uh, involved enough in like Korean families to judge that, I think.
yeah.
Whereas you guys both have like, you know, you're married to Koreans, so that makes a big difference. Um,
Plus,
but
in
I
our
would say
age, it's different at this point. Like, if
there's
you're
still a
in your
structure.
early 20s, I think parents and
Yeah,
kids would react differently to us who are in our 40s living with, you know, a significant other, even if we
there's still
weren't
a
married.
structural difference though. Like in Korea, like a lot of places in the world, generations living together is still a very popular thing.
Yeah.
If you're 40 years old and you're not married, there's a good chance you live with mom and dad, and that's not because you're a dweeb in the basement. Like
My
that's
brother-in-law
actually
still does.
not right, and that's not just like reasonable. That's literally just what you do. Like that just makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, that's my impression. Again, you guys. I mean, just like Kevin said,
No,
he's like my
my
brother-in-law
wife and I
does, and it's
lived
like, well, yeah,
together before we got married for a brief time, and there was some pushback on her on my mother-in-law's, you know, I can't believe, what are you
How old were
doing?
you how old were you when that
We
was
were
happening?
20, we were probably like 29 or 28, something like that.
Okay,
So,
upper 20s.
yeah,
Yeah,
late 20s.
my wife and I lived together also for like a year and a half or something before we got married. At that point, how old were we? Like I was 30. She's a bit older than I am, so she was like 30. Wait, no, was I 30? Anyway, I was like just around 30, maybe 29, 30, and she was like, 33, something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think there was a little bit of, I wouldn't say in my family's case, although my wife's family tends to be pretty just accepting of things in general. So there wasn't so much pushback. There was a little bit of skepticism, I would say, at first, but less pushback. But again, I mean, every family is
Hmm.
going to be different. I would say something kind of funny, actually. This reminds me of an interesting Korean word that I remember many years ago. I met a Korean couple that had been living together for a really long time. You guys know the word for marriage in Korea, right? In Korean,
Mhm.
Hmm.
what is it?
결혼,
Yeah.
결혼.
So that hon, right, is basically like being together, kind of thing. And so this couple, they told me that they were 사실 hon. 사실 means like really, truly, like kind of thing. Like you can almost say that in that sentence, like 사실, oh, like right, really, I am this. And so they were saying 사실 hon. So it's like basically like common law marriage. Like yeah, they're effectively married, even though they weren't actually married. They're like yeah, we're living together. We're 사실 hon. Like they're like effectively married. So there was like a word for it. For this, which I thought was interesting, because once there's a word for it, then the concept, really
Yeah,
exists
Yeah, it
sure.
must
in the
have
Common
common
law
some
marriage.
gravity
psychology.
around it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
things are change. Times are changing, man. I like it. I was kind of joking when I'm saying I'm like the old man shaking his cane, because I'm not shaking my cane. I'm like I'm supporting it. Like anything that's shows like progress and more open-mindedness, I think is a good thing. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's just I don't know. I guess I'm reflecting more now because it's been 20 years, and that's a pretty good amount of time to kind of go back and just see where you were, what were things like when I was first starting, teaching
It'll be interesting to
university
see how
students,
this specific issue of LGBT stuff, what happens to it once our students are have once they start voting and or getting into positions of power themselves. Because I mean, this is one thing that happens like almost every year for the past few years. There's the queer fest that happens in Seoul every year, is like just the politicians, the mayor select the Seoul mayors, like just always do whatever they can in their power to make it not happen, basically. Like
Mm,
this year they were pushed against, like they weren't able to hold it because they like weren't able to reserve the Gwanghwamun Square where they want to have that, because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there,
One of my friends from Wisconsin, she's I traveled with her uh Morocco last winter.
mm,
And so we've been keeping up a dialogue now, and she's very involved in politics in Wisconsin, um, leans heavily left. And so she's been a couple of times sent me a couple articles about Korea uh culture and Korean politics and stuff, and how so much of Korean politics is, just dominated by conservative men and things like this. And
yeah.
in the conversation, I was like, well, you do know we there have been in this country too long. In Korea, in
the
Korea, you
royal we.
realize like in Korea we have a lower ratio of female politicians. It's true, but unlike America, we've had a female president. And she was like, "Oh, that's amazing," and I was like, "Yeah, well,
It didn't work
It
out
didn't
so
turn out
well.
too well. But,
maybe I shouldn't have led with that."
Yeah, yeah, that's funny.
um
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, although I actually I'm curious. I remember seeing, I don't have the numbers offhand because I didn't know we were going to talk about it, but the election that we just started talking about 10 minutes ago or whatever, there were quite a significant number of women elected. I think, I mean, it's still a lower number. I don't know what the percentage is in the States either. But I think it was like 20 or 30% in Korea were elected this last time. So the numbers are getting up there. Um, it's yeah, still not completely equal exactly, but it's getting closer every year.
Yeah, I think there's also still a very low representation by percentage of like female CEOs or female management.
Yeah.
Korea's way behind the curve on this. Um, and I don't know how much that's progressing, how much that's changing. This is not a subject that I have like a lot of
Yeah,
experience.
we're kind of in the weeds a little bit, because it's like I don't have any hard data. It's just all anecdotal, just from my observations or whatever. But
And in terms of
Yeah.
CEOs and stuff, I'm sure it is going to be less. I mean, in the States, it's relatively low as well, but I'm sure it's even less here.
Yeah, I mean, especially for the three of us, for listeners that don't know, the three of us work together, and we're all teachers, and our dean actually is female. Half our staff is female. Like, I don't know.
yeah,
It just we don't have the regular experience. I think that a lot of other people are having.
yeah, we don't have the corporate experience. What is it really like in an office? And I can only go by
Yeah.
like watching like a drama on TV or whatever, and me saying or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Kev, what are you pulling up right now?
Looking up demographics of
Okay.
the assembly, trying to see what I can find
Yeah.
from the election, but my
Yeah.
Google foo is failing me. Actually, I don't use Google anymore. Screw Google. DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
about
yeah.
oh sorry. Well, I was just gonna
No,
say
good.
like attitudes, it seems like the attitudes obviously are changing. They're getting more progressive for students. Um, what do you think about the like as far as like English skills and stuff like that? Do you think that have you noticed like a huge jump in the last like 20 years from like what their ability was maybe when you
Yeah,
started 10
I
years
mean, I
ago to
think we've
now?
talked a little bit about that before, and it
Yeah.
bears
Yeah,
repeating.
I'm pretty
It's
sure it's
definitely a transforming culture. Korea changes so quickly, and I used to think it was a lot of the surface level things, like, oh, like Kevin and I, we were just bumming around yesterday in Itaewon,
Mhm.
and both him and I, that's where we used to live, and it's not a surprise that so many buildings are different. Like, not just the shops are different, but buildings are ripped down, other things are built, and it's Korea changes a lot. But that's like a surface level thing. I think, yeah, other deeper things are changing too. Like talking about the views on uh LGBTQ stuff and yeah, English language, sure, but I would think that's also. I mean, would you agree students are more like globalized now too?
Yeah, that's
There
what I
seems to
was
be
kind of
more
hinting at.
understanding, awareness
Yeah.
of what's going on outside. Korea has always strike me as um, very curious or very knowledgeable about things that are international compared to like the average American anyway. I mean, most Koreans you talk to have like traveled outside their own country.
Like
It's
I would say
really
that
Koreans,
common.
that's generally probably true for almost anyone not American.
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
so there's a bias inherent in
I
that
mean,
statement.
look at our European friends, right? Like Stefan and Bernat. Those guys
Yeah.
are, super international as well, and they're from Europe because there's just it's smaller countries. Americans are kind of the opposite there, where like I mean, many Americans do travel, but many do not, of course. And one reason for that, not to get into people being conservative or not wanting to travel, America's just a big, goddamn big country. In Europe, going the same amount of miles, you're going to travel across 5 countries. And in America, you're just going to go from, Texas to New York or something like that. It's still the same
Yeah,
country.
what is it like? What's that old chestnut? It's like going LA to New York and you're speaking the same language, a little different accent, but you got the same restaurants and everything, whatever.
Right.
But if you went from like London in the same direction that you left LA, you didn't be like in Istanbul or something.
Something exactly. And
Yeah,
so I think
that's
also
a little different.
one
Or
just in terms
further,
of Europeans
further.
travel. I mean, Korea is not the same exactly because you can't just drive to another country. We're effectively an island here. But something that's a different approach is America is first in the world. Generally the strongest country in the world, generally the global leader of culture and things in the world. And so, it's easy to just watch American movies and American TV shows and listen to American music when you're in America, right? Other countries are not first in the world, and they know they're not first in the world. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? They're not, trying to, it's not like a competition. They're like, we got to beat America. It's just like, we're not the strongest country out there. That's cool. But then there's a little bit more need to know about the other countries in the world because, they're important as well. And in America, it's like, we're just better than everybody. We're the first in this, and this. And so I think there's
Hmm.
less desire to be aware of it. Whereas in
Yeah.
Korea, in other countries, you have to be aware
I
of
feel like
other
my
countries because
my
they have more
students,
impact.
yeah, they're always trying to when they're talking about Korea, they're contextualizing it in the world. pecking order in a way. They're kind of, like,
Yeah.
this is so they have to watch BBC. They got to understand what's going on here, what's going on over there, so they can kind of contextualize Korea's place in the world, like where do we belong? Where are we? And Americans are just kind of like, I guess maybe you're right. Like if you are the most powerful, you have the biggest military, you have the largest economy, you tend to just be like, well, it doesn't matter. Everything else is irrelevant. It's just what's happening here. It's kind of a gross over a generalization maybe of
Of course.
Americans, but
Yeah, it might
well,
not.
it's
I think I know what you're trying to say. Maybe it's not the
yeah,
best way to say it, not
yeah.
criticizing you because I don't think I can fix it. But
No, no, no.
I think I
I'm
see what
being
you're getting at.
clumsy with my
Yeah,
expression.
yeah. I'm trying to think of like how I could like
It's just when you're living in
turn the
countries
cube,
like
but I
Korea, you
can't.
just have to, you tend to be more globally aware in general because the globe has more impact on your country than it
There you
does
go. That's
in
yeah. Maybe
America.
it just doesn't. It bounces
Um,
off us more easily than it does in
yeah,
Korea,
like
whatever.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like anyone in Korea is gonna know the president of America, for example. Ask, five random Americans if they can tell you the president of Korea, and most of them
You're
are not gonna
probably
know.
hitting close to zero.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
because it's just not as important for it, but in Korea, in most countries, like you gotta know what's happening around you more because it has more impact on you. And so yeah, but it is interesting how Koreans are, especially young kids, are definitely becoming more and more globalized. I mean, a lot more kids wanting to travel abroad or having traveled abroad, which is fantastic. That's always my number one advice for students because I did travel abroad, so I know how important it is. um, and yeah, kids here just are learning more and more about things. And I mean, again, media as well. They're getting more foreign media coming into Korea, which is just showing them like this is what life is like abroad. Oh,
I'm
I
gonna.
wonder how that's
Yeah.
probably the same in America too. I mean, there's more foreign media coming into America in some ways, but I can't compare that
I'm
because I
gonna
don't
I'm
live
gonna
there.
go on a ledge here a little bit, but I'm gonna say I've noticed something in Korean, a trend with Korean students that I don't really like. It's like students will come up to me with like a Jordan Peterson book, the 12 rules for life, or an Elon Musk autobiography, or a Steve Jobs autobiography or something. And there's just kind of like this they seem susceptible to these kinds of certain ideas that I think are kind of the worst of our culture, like the worst that we have to offer is what penetrates and gets through for some reason.
Sometimes, not always,
And
but
not always, but I feel like sometimes it does, and or often it does. And I don't say anything because it's like it's not my place to tell the student like, oh, you should throw that book in the bin. Jordan Peterson is a lunatic or whatever. Or whatever I might think, whatever my opinion might be about it, or I think Elon Musk is overrated, or Steve Jobs is overrated, or whatever.
Yeah, but that might be like your opinion getting printed onto like what you're seeing, because could it also be that what they're bringing to you is just what's the loudest, which often is, I would agree
Mhm.
with you,
Yeah,
often, the most obnoxious can be sometimes the loudest, but
right.
you know, I could put other things into that same category. We could say like Kanye West, Taylor Swift,
Sure.
Barack Obama, like these things aren't equal. So yeah, I think it's weird when I have students that uh have like a surface knowledge of one of those things, and I have such a different impression of it.
mm,
Because and not even just my own impression, like the impression that I think most Americans have of that person or that concept or that thing. Like Jordan Peterson's a good example. Like the student maybe is not enthusiastic about Jordan Peterson, obviously not critical either. They bought the book,
Yeah.
but they're not they don't have the same background
yeah,
Right.
like
of
Well,
course.
approaching it. Like
well, you know
so
who
for them
loves
it's just
Jordan
like, yeah,
Peterson?
this guy, he's like got a kind of a crazy opinion on the book jacket. I want to check this out. I'm like,
Yeah.
do you know what that is? Like, okay, all right, let's see where this goes.
Well, you know who Jordan Peterson really is attractive to is like 13-year-old boys. You know what I mean? On the internet, spending a lot of time playing games. You know what I mean? Like that's where those kind of conservative ideas penetrate. And it's kind of funny that maybe that there is something to be said about that, where like, something that a 13-year-old boy might be, putting this, idea of like what, manliness is and masculinity and when they really are just figuring out who they are would be attracted to a book like The 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson, you know, which you know what I mean? But it's funny how maybe that those ideas are kind of penetrate a little bit later here in the
Oh,
you know, later teen
it's an
years or
interesting
something.
thought.
I don't know. This is my observation, but I'm not sure, you know.
I was just saying that sometimes I talk to students and when they're talking about, you know, figures that I would say are controversial, they're coming at it. Well, they're also students, right? So they should. They're more uncolored and neutral, a little more objective because they're just learning about the world. Um, Whereas, you know, us as adults, we have to be even more vigilant, you know, because what do old people like us do, Jack? We read the news. That's our thing, you know. That's what old people do. We're doing it.
Watch
You know,
Sean
don't
Hannity
you
and
laugh,
Tucker
man? But all three
Carlson
of us,
and yeah.
yeah, we're sitting there on Reddit. We're reading the news. We're sucking it up, and we're getting all pissed off,
Yeah.
shaking our
Maybe
canes at the clouds.
I am shaking my
Yeah,
cane a little bit in this episode. That's
yeah,
right. I'm on my front porch. Get off my lawn. Yeah.
yeah. I noticed you're growing the beard out. It looks good.
Thanks. Yeah, it's getting it's out of control. It's out of control again. Yeah. We'll see how long the wife allows that to happen. Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know. I like this conversation. It's interesting because I like when you know, when my students do come up to me and they have some kind of artifact from America, you know, some kind of very American, because I think of Jordan Peterson as being, you know, he's a Canadian guy, but he's really rose to fame in America. And the lionization of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and those, you know, the entrepreneurial billionaire kind of lusting after that we do, it always makes me chuckle a little bit when I see my students, you know, kind of like trying to channel some of that energy in their own lives, you know, and I want to get into a deeper philosophical, political discussion with them, but you know, there's a linguistic barrier. I don't speak Korean well enough to do that. Kev, you could probably, you know, get into
For
it a
some
little bit.
things, but
Yeah,
it's still tough to talk about politics
yeah.
Well,
on
yeah, and
subject.
also it's not. I mean, there's a limit to what we can discuss as teachers too, at
Right.
the risk of, yeah, right.
Oh yeah,
So only so many of
politics
those
and
topics are
religion
really,
are things that
yeah.
don't
I
talk about in
mean,
class.
how much do you really want to know? How much do you really want to investigate or influence at the risk of what your job really is? But I don't know. I
Right.
think it's we can always tell funny stories about how, especially years ago, how students would misinterpret or not understand these types of cultural differences. I know I must have said this in the podcast. If not, I'm going to repeat it because it's funny as hell. Um, I had a student, I do presentations. This is back when I first started teaching, and we weren't, I mean, I do a lot of editing with the students. This is like the early days of our program, and I had a student, he hadn't really shown up and done the legwork, and so, but he had a presentation ready to go. So, you know, I would just be like, yeah, sure, get on stage, let's see what you can do. You know, you're gonna pull a D, I don't care, you know, but I'd
Presentation
still let
day,
him
got to do
present
something.
without checking his stuff. He gets up and he's the hip hop kid, right? So
Just
he's gonna talk about hip hop. You know, my favorite music is hip hop. All right. You know, and he's got his saggy pants on and everything. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. And he pulls up his PPT and he's like, this is called NWA. I'm like, uh-oh. And okay, this was doing from bad to worse. Like,
yeah.
I knew that I was going to hear the N-bomb a few times, but the audience is, you know, I kind of deaf to it a little bit. I'm the one that's going to be cringing. He starts going on this. He had a whole point in his PowerPoint about how the N-word is he's not saying the N-word, by the way, right? Hard G, hard R. Like, and he's saying how this is such a fascinating, awesome word, but he's not analyzing it. Like, he's dropping it in bars. And like, yeah, I like how cool it's. I had to pull a presentation. I was just like, all right, this is a learning moment.
Yeah. This is not acceptable. This is hate
This was
speech.
not part of
Yeah.
my job description, but this is going to be a learning moment for everybody today.
Yeah.
Time out. We will continue presentations tomorrow after you listen to my lecture. Yeah, but that stuff doesn't
Yeah.
happen anymore.
Yeah. It wasn't like a Steven Pinker using it to explain why it's the most hateful word in the English language. It was you
Yeah,
know,
it didn't have that nuance.
yeah, there was no nuance. It was just like, this is cool because, yeah, I listened to this
Yeah,
group.
and he wasn't trying to mess with
Yeah.
me. That's it was
Yeah.
very I say it makes a really funny story. I've told this story to many friends and stuff because it was one of the funniest things that's happened to me. Well, as a teacher, kind of, dark, funny, but the situation wasn't funny for me at the time because it wasn't like I could just get angry at the kid or something. He wasn't being bad. He was genuine. He was being earnest. He's like,
Right.
he prepared for this. So how do I, tiptoe around that and be like, look, I know what you were trying to do here, but we got to talk. And then of course you're operating with a language barrier and, so yeah, the
But
joys of living
I think it's a
abroad.
good teachable moment because you learn that there, like, in every language there are landmines. You're going to step in it, sometimes, and you may not even understand why what you did wrong necessarily. I mean, I don't think he's going to understand the centuries of race of slavery and then the 100 years of Jim Crow and racism, and he's not going to understand all that, what that word symbolizes. He just heard it in a rap song, probably a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And
I think, I mean, now
um,
having taught for many more years and stuff and being here for longer, I'm sure I could handle it better now. I think I handled it okay then. I think I could have made it more of a teachable moment. I'm sure he was impressed enough to think twice from there forward. I mean, I pulled his presentation while he was talking.
yeah.
So, I mean, at the very least, he knows something went off the rails.
Well,
Yeah.
I got a question for you guys because Kevin and I were talking about this, and this is getting a little bit school talky, but I mean, I think it's okay in our podcast if we sometimes get schoolish a little bit. But
That's
it
our
sounds like
lives.
I'm doing a lot of presentations this semester myself. Like I've really become more a fan of the presentational approach to language learning, where students have to come up and actually use the language and present some ideas or some information about their home country, or even just sing a song or read a poem and analyze it or something like that. And so I don't know, it just sounds like you guys have been had the same epiphany, and we all kind of had it at the same time. Maybe you guys have been doing it longer than me. I just started this, but um I don't know. Kevin, I know you're into the same thing, so yeah, I'm just
That was
wondering.
more just because I wanted to change my class. It's just been years and years and years I've been doing the same shit different day. So I
Yeah,
got bored with doing the same thing and like, let's try something different this semester.
Yes, it's fun to
yeah,
try new stuff.
Yeah, I just got bored. Been teaching the same thing for a decade plus.
And
yeah,
again, pivoting back to what we're talking about, like the changing, the evolution of culture here and how fast things change, you really do need to adapt to the class because Korea is funny that way. It's changing always at a pretty good clip. So I think, yeah, some activities can be outdated, or discussions. A lot of them get outdated, or yeah, Jack, you were talking about language ability, and I was saying about how they're more globalized and stuff. That
yeah,
shifts the way that you approach the classroom. That shifts the way you approach even just one-on-one, like in the tutoring, the counseling sessions that we do, and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. Still love it.
Yeah, I don't know. I started the presentations because of Kevin. I think I feel the same, like professional ennui that you're starting to feel, It's like you do the same
Mm.
thing for 20 years or 19 years or 18 years or whatever, and all of a sudden you're like, I got to mix this up a little bit for myself, or I'm going to become uh, you know, uh,
Yeah, it's
Mr.
definitely, it's
Crabapple,
partially for
my
me. It's
my
partially for
high
the
school
students
math
as
teacher.
well. I
Yeah.
think it'll be good for them. Hopefully, we'll
Yeah.
see if the students like it at the end of the semester. If they all review bomb me at the end, then I'll go back.
Yeah,
But I
right.
think
It all
it'll
comes
work.
down
I
to
think
the
it'll work.
yeah, the re
Yeah, but that's life though too, right? You just got to keep things changing a little bit to keep it fresh, so you don't just watch the days go by. You gotta, switch it up, and it's good
Mm,
for you. It's good for the
very
students.
much.
It's yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're living abroad or if you're you know, living life in your hometown. It's the same thing. Even if you're abroad, I mean, life can be exciting, but only if you make it that way, and you got to keep
Mm.
things changing. Even your job, it's still a daily job. I don't know.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
keep it
I
exciting.
agree.
That's a
Yeah, a hundred
good
percent.
good frame for the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trying to bring it back.
All
I don't
right.
know.
I think you put a nice period on that conversation. We were a little bit all over the map today, but I think
Why
it
not?
was
It's a beautiful
yeah,
day.
It's fun. Yeah. Yeah. With donuts to presentations. I love it. Listeners out there, if you guys like this podcast, you can send us a comment, thesoulpatch@gmail.com. Just send us an email. Let us know if you want to come on the show as a guest, or if you want to make a comment for us, leave a comment for us. You can do it there. You can also go to our website, thesoulpatch.com. You can leave a comment on the website. We are always checking that and updating that, so the newest episodes are always available there. And Kev, Ryan, thanks, man, thanks guys for getting together and having another conversation. I love these. These are great. So
Enjoy the weather, although the air isn't very good today. Oh,
Yeah,
I've
what
got the
it
window
is.
open and Ryan's chilling on his porch anyway, so
I don't know. That looks
Suck up
pretty
the yellow
nice
dust.
outside. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Me say mungie all day long.
yeah, chewing on it. Yep.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Catch
All
you
right,
guys
see
next
ya.
time.